Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Chiwete Onyema. The top stories this hour. Security operatives rescued 13 bus passengers abducted in Benue State. Presidency replies critics insist that President Tinubu is in St. Lucia for diplomatic engagement, not for vacation. Tragic bus collision claims 38 lives in Sabasaba, Tanzania's Kilimanjaro region. Details shortly. We begin news now with the good developments coming from Nigeria's north-central region, where security operatives say they have successfully rescued 13 passengers abducted from a Benue Links bus at Eke in Opoku local government area in Benue State. The rescue is a joint effort led by police and local vigilante groups supported by youths from neighboring Kogi State, who increased pressure on the kidnappers. The kidnappers abandoned the victims at Oando village on Sunday afternoon. Benue local government area chairman Ada Inalegu confirmed the operation, highlighting the role of improved security surveillance and logistics provided by Governor Hyacinth Alia. The abductees are currently being profiled before reunification with their families. This rescue follows intense forest combing and security operations after the bus was ambushed on June 22nd, with one passenger escaping earlier to report the incident to authorities. Still on security development, the Northern Elders Forum, NEF, has called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to declare a state of emergency in northern Nigeria over the unabating insecurity challenges, as it condemned the killing of over 20 soldiers in Bangi Mariga local government area of Niger State. In a statement signed by the spokesperson of NEF, Professor Abubakar Jideri, the NEF expressed pain over the brutal killing of the soldiers in an ambush by terrorists in the area and described it as a total collapse of security in northern Nigeria. Jideri said the boldness demonstrated by the terrorists is an indication of a declaration of war against Nigeria and added that northern Nigeria is under siege. NEF insists that Nigerians deserve visible, aggressive, and accountable action against non-state actors. Meanwhile, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project is demanding answers from Nigeria's 36 state governors over the use of security vote allocations received since May 29, 2023. In a Freedom of Information request dated June 28th and signed by SERAP's Deputy Director, Kolawole Uluwadare, the organization is urging the governors to publicly disclose how the funds have been spent. They also are calling for anti-corruption agencies, specifically the EFCC and ICPC, to be granted access to monitor and investigate the spending. SERAP expressed concern over what it described as the persistent failure by many state leaders to channel these funds towards genuinely improving security. The group warns that the lack of transparency surrounding security votes has opened the door to corruption and weakened public oversight. The organization has given governors a 7-day deadline to comply. If they fail to respond, SERAP says it will head to court to compel disclosure. Right now, Brigadier General John Temlong, retired ON, joins me for more on security situations and challenges, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria. Brigadier General Temlong, retired, was the pioneer commander, multinational joint task force, and consultant on national security. He joins from Jos, the Plateau State capital. You're welcome, General. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure having me.
All right, so let's start off by talking about the Northern Elders Forum, NEF, and the fact that they've called on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to declare a state of emergency in the northern part of Nigeria over the unabating insecurity challenges. So what will be your take on this?
Well, thank you very much. I read that what the Northern Elders Forum are saying. You see, sometimes we talk and don't look inwards and look at what the problems are. In warfare or in this sort of operation, There is what Karl von Clausewitz, the classical military thinker, the Prussian, wrote, and he said there is what we call the remarkable trinity, or the classical trinity of war, where the popular will, that's the population or the national will, the military force, and then the political direction. What we are lacking in Nigeria today, and which I think the Northern Elders Forum can address as quickly as possible, is that we don't have the popular will or the national will behind the military operations that are going on government. We are always quick to criticize or say these things. The terrorists or the militants or the bandits, or whatever name you want to call them, do not live off the ground. They live and operate with citizens. They get their resources, their fuels, their spare parts, and the rest, their food, all from citizens. Some prominent Nigerians do sponsor them. They are part and parcel of them. Now, if you do not feed them, no matter the state of emergency you feed, you are living in a very congested environment where civilians, the combatants, and national objectives are operating in a limited space, a very congested space. And so if the people, the citizens themselves, do not come out clean to say, look, this is the bad guy, this man is this man is this man is providing resources, this man is a terrorist, like what the Maiduguri young men did in the beginning of the Boko Haram crisis when they got to a state where they formed themselves into what they call Civilian Joint Task Force and started volunteering information and fishing out their colleagues who are Boko Haram, and some of them were informants. These people live within us here. Elders should come out as elders and make sure that we speak to our youth. You know, if you see a very terrible thing, the criminal aspect of where they ambush our soldiers and kill those numbers, you don't go and lay an ambush on a street or anyhow, unless you have information that people are moving or soldiers are going to move along that route. And who gave that intelligence to them, that information to the terrorists or to the bandits to ambush the soldiers? Because it was an ambush, it wasn't a clash. And so it meant that there were people who gave information. In fact, some aided probably by sending distress calls to the soldiers who are responding to that call, whereas they had informed they were in connivance with the terrorists or the bandits or whatever you want to call them. As far as I'm concerned, they are terrorists. Then they will give them those information, and the soldiers come and run into those ambushes and they are killed because they believe they are moving in friendly territories. They are going to help citizens. Yet it is the citizens who have come out collaborating with those enemies of the state, enemies of the people to do that. So I think what we need to do in the North and what we need to do as citizens is that we must play our own roles as to national security. Whether they declare state of emergency on security today or not, if the citizens do not play their own part in this congested terrain that we're working inside, the security agencies and the soldiers will find it very difficult to perform these roles that they do. But the moment we start fishing out these bad people within us, no matter how highly placed they are, and we start holding our governors and local governments and politicians accountable for what is going on, then the earlier we will be able to solve these problems. But as long as we sit down and start providing some of these solutions that are not workable, then we will continue to say, because we say we are talking, but let's talk to ourselves first. Let's make sure that we cooperate, we give the intelligence that is available, we fish our people who are not there, we help, and we hold our governors accountable. The rule of law must work. It is the same people today. If the police have told you that they have arrested about so many people in the Benue massacre, you hear the next minute, ask the police or send somebody there. They will tell you how many highly placed people have been going there now to secure their release and all whatnot. how do you continue with those sort of things? Let
All right.
justice prevail.
All
Let
right.
the rule of law work, and let citizens cooperate and work. These people are not just ghosts. They are living within us. They are working within us. They get their food stuff from us. They get the spare parts for the vehicles and machines they use from us. They get the petroleum products that they use for those things. And in fact, sometimes they even get doctors and medication from within us, and they know that they are doing this, and nobody
All right, General.
happens to them.
All right.
People live outside their means within us, and we see it.
General, the Northern Elders Forum decried the increasing boldness demonstrated by the terrorists, arguing that a good chunk of the North is under siege. Do you agree with them? What's your true position on that?
What I'm saying is that we can turn the tide around in conjunction with the government and the people and the military or the armed forces and security agencies. It can be under siege. The whole of Northeast was under siege at the time. And when the citizens started cooperating, it was turned around. What I'm saying is that we must do the same. We must turn these things around. It's not declaring state of emergency. Yes, if they declare state of emergency, it wouldn't, to what extent? Do they think that will they going to have military as administrators, or just declaring state of emergency on security alone as a sector? Because security needs the citizens, they need the economy, they need the communications that they use. Will they agree that when they start monitoring their communication, start arresting people who are suspects, and then start introducing martial laws in some areas? Will they agree? Yes, I wouldn't say no, so that the military can have a free hand and start picking up people who are suspects, and people will not turn around and start saying that humanitarian laws, international laws, they're going against. People are turning it into political vendetta, that they are doing political vendetta. But if they want that, yes. But then I think the important thing that if we do what we're supposed to do, we don't need any state of emergency. The military will succeed.
All right, we received the good news, General.
We must hold ourselves.
General, apologies, but I have to interject at this point in time. I don't know if you can hear me very well, but we received the good news of the rescue of 13 abducted passengers in Benue State with cheers. Now, while we celebrate such strides of security operatives, we're concerned about the reactionary approach of the security apparatus, including, especially, of course, the military. Could this be blamed to failure of intelligence or just outright lack of intelligence?
Well, it could be both, but this intelligence is derived from where? It's from the citizens. It is the citizens must give this intelligence. So human intelligence is the most important for us in operations. Now look at what happened in the rescue. It was a collaborative action between the citizens, the youth, and the security agencies that led, and the pressure was so much. It means then that if today citizens decide to start volunteering information and then picking up those who are bad and those who they know they are bad and reporting them and then handing them over, I'm telling you, within 6 months, this country will be clean, because there are so many criminals walking around freely in this country who are even holding very important positions, either in government or in the civil service, or even in the traditional authority. But if we start cleaning the systems ourselves, nobody will clean it for us. It is we. So if we do a safe cleaning and then use the apparatus of the state to help in cleaning these things, I'm telling you, give 6 months within which you will see that everything will be turned around. Because these people are not living, they are not ghosts. They don't live off the land, they are human beings, they recruit the people from us, they all the supplies from us.
All right, General, the killing of over 20 soldiers in Bangi Mariga local government area of Niger State is something that is still very fresh in the minds of many of us. Would you say that enough is being done by the federal government and even state security architectures?
But I told you here earlier on that who gave the information and intelligence about the movement of those soldiers? It's the citizens, it's collaborators. So what do you do? There is nothing you can do outside those things. Because the military who is defending and protecting the same people, and they are working against them, what do you do? I mean, those people could not have ambushed them without knowing that they are moving on that route, the time they are moving, and they would have been responding to a distress call, which would have been a phony call put in place to make sure that to lure them into the killing ground. And they went into it thinking that they were going to rescue or help their own citizens, their fellow citizens. And yet there were people who are working against them and to provide a killing ground for bandits and terrorists to kill them. So what there is nothing you can do in such situation. So you see what the work of intelligence coming from within happened even during the Israeli-Iranian things. It was intelligence that gave all the locations. It was intelligence that even gave the locations of all the military commanders and scientists. So it was, why was it? It was people embedded in those areas. So you cannot say that without intelligence, you just go and lie on any street and people are moving on an opposite direction and you ambush them. You can't get them. You can't get them. So it's not a matter of architecture. It is a matter of we that are providing the enabling environment to make these people look as if they are so impregnable and they are so tough. They are not. The moment we decide to be patriotic and work with our security agencies to be able to climb this thing, I'm telling you, give 6 months and you will see this country is clean. And
all right, General.
Anybody who sits down and wants to interfere, let the law take its course. You will see a difference.
Now, General, when we start this conversation, ever since we started this conversation, you seem to have been blaming the citizens for most parts of it. But one would wonder who is actually in charge of information and intelligence being fed to the bandits now on when to attack the military. Could that really be the citizens' fault in that?
Actually, I blame the citizens, but I don't blame them because there's a leadership. Okay? The governors and the local governments are not doing what they're supposed to do to get the citizens to understand their roles as to national security. If you read the National Defense Policy, it is a citizen-centric policy on the roles of citizens in national defense. Now, the National Security Strategy too is a citizen-centric strategy. Now the governors and the local government chairmen are not getting their access together to make sure that the citizens know their roles and responsibilities. What are those things that they can report? What are those things that are harmful to them? What actions do they do that they think they are making money out of it? Like if you sell petrol to bandits and they're buying it at 20,000 naira for a gallon, you know, they are making a lot of money, but that in itself, you are providing an enabling environment for somebody to kill you or to kill your relation or to kill your brother. So that's another aspect. The other aspect is that what is nationalism? Are we building a nation or a country? You hear people talking about their tribes as nations. So what happens to one does not affect the other. A harm to one should be a harm to all.
All right, thank you so much, General, for your time. Thank you so much for having this conversation with us. We're really pressed for time, but we need to move on now. But thank you so much for having this conversation. And we hope we can have you have this kind of conversations with us in the nearest future. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we return, there's more. Do stay with us. Man, thanks for staying with us. Now, in politics, former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi is taking aim at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu over his state visit to the Caribbean nation of St. Lucia. Obi described the timing of the trip as both ill-timed and insensitive, citing the growing hardship, insecurity, and natural disasters affecting millions of Nigerians. Obi, in a strong worded statement, questioned why the president would choose this moment for a foreign visit. He pointed to widespread hunger, deadly floods, and ongoing security challenges as reasons the president should stay and lead from the front. Obi specifically referenced the devastation in Mina, Niger State, where recent floods reportedly claimed over 200 lives and left many still missing. He also dismissed President Tinubu's recent trip to Benue State as nothing more than a political jamboree rather than a genuine condolence visit. The criticism underscores mounting public pressure on the presidency to address urgent domestic crisis. Now, in a swift reaction, the presidency says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's visit to St. Lucia is a strategic diplomatic engagement and not a vacation. Presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga emphasized that the visit marks a historic milestone, being the first by an African leader since Nelson Mandela in 1998. Tinubu is scheduled to address a special joint session of St. Lucia's Parliament and hold talks with regional leaders from the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. The visit reflects Nigeria's commitment to deepening South-South cooperation and expanding partnerships with CARICOM countries, countering claims that the trip is a leisure vacation. Suspended Governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, has called on his supporters to accept the peace deal brokered between himself and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. Speaking in Port Harcourt after a public outing alongside the minister, Governor Fubara acknowledged the deep disappointment and anxiety felt by many of his loyalists, but emphasized that, in his own words, difficult times call for tough decisions and concessions. Fubara openly recognized Wike's critical role in his political rise, stating that the minister's influence in his emergence as governor cannot be wished away. He went on to reveal that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu personally intervened in the dispute, issuing a direct mandate for reconciliation between both men described by many as political godfather and protege for the sake of peace and stability in Rivers State.
We have fought. I think in my own assessment and in the assessment of anyone that is here, will genuinely, if you're genuine in this struggle, you will know that we have done what we need to do. At this point, if you want to be truthful to yourself, not lying to yourself, the only solution is peace. I did say.
Meantime, the reconciliation process between suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike appears to be resonating with many in Rivers State. For the Rivers Women Unite for Sim, a pro-Fubara group, it is a prayer answered, hence the women are currently having a Thanksgiving program in appreciation of the return of peace to the state. Rivers Women Unit for Sim group stood out for their persistence in the demand for the return of democratic rule in Rivers State since the declaration of emergency rule in the state on the 18th of March 2025. Chatam Thierry joins me now to share his thoughts on recent political developments in Rivers State. Chatam is a lawyer and activist and a stakeholder in Rivers State's politics. Chatam, thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin with the year's view on peace deal between, of course, Governor Fubara and Minister Wike. What's your view on that?
Well, for some of us, we have viewed the issue of the reconciliation. We have mixed feelings about the reconciliation because, like I have always said, that the reconciliation in Rivers State today, it's not necessarily in the best interest of Rivers people, because one, Rivers people were not consulted. Secondly, Rivers people, when you look at the whole dispute between the FCT minister and the governor, you definitely discover that the whole fight has been about the resources of Rivers State and how to share the resources of Rivers State. That has been the central point of the quarrel. It's not even it is not how to protect the best interest of the average Riversman. It's all about resource control. So the reconciliation, which we see that the president oversee and made sure that they were able to reconcile, was just the president assisted them on how to share our resources. So not like it is developmentally driven. It was not, actually. It was just the FCT minister wanting to control. You remember him saying that the governor has taken over his structure and there is a fight for him to regain back his structure. What is the structure? Resources of Rivers State. And it's sad that this whole issue of godfatherism has now returned back to the state. It's something that we should all frown out. It's something that is actually sad. Yes, it's unfortunate that the president had to go ahead to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State, which some of us had condemned right from the beginning of this whole thing, because we feel that there was no need to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State at the time the president did, because the Supreme Court at that time had settled all the political impasses within Rivers State. However, the president did not actually give heed to even the Supreme Court decision, but went ahead, declared state of emergency, suspended an elected governor and an elected House of Assembly, which is unheard of, which is something we have never seen in this particular nation, and we also believe is unconstitutional, because the president does not have any constitutional power to so suspend an elected governor or the elected House of Assembly. And he went ahead to declare state of emergency in Rivers State, which has destroyed the economy of Rivers State. Some of us see naturally on the face value, we want to look at the reconciliation to mean that Rivers State will be restored back to democracy, and not just democracy, that our economy will start to pick up again. But sadly, when you look at the intention of the major players, you discover that their intention has nothing to benefit the average Rivers man on the street. It is just about their personal interest, their individual interest that they are pushing, and that this is actually sad. So for us, it comes with a mixed feeling, and there's not so much of an excitement for us, because it is just a return to what we have always seen, the godfatherism and one man trying to control the entirety of the state.
Now, you said there's no excitement on your end, and probably that might be the case of some people in Rivers State, but what impact do you think this reconciliation will have, especially when it comes to politics and governance in Rivers State?
Well, to be honest with you, for the past how many years now, say 10 years, we've not really had what looks like governance in Rivers State. What we have all continued to have is jamboree. Of course, from the 8 years of Wike's administration down to the about 2 years now of the Sims administration, all we have seen is jamboree, politics, politics, and politics. We have not really seen leadership. We have not really seen that governance. So I can tell you for free that we are returning back to the political era again. So for us, we are not anticipating any change to the affairs of the average Rivers man on the street. Of course, when you see in Rivers State today, for roads to be awarded, it is based on politics. For whatever thing to be done, it's based on politics. It is not based on the genuine needs of the people. It's not based on needs assessment. But what we have seen is everything is born out of politics and not governance. So I wouldn't be shocked, because the governor has returned back to his godfather, who wanted him to be a puppet or to act as a puppet. And what do you expect? The governor is going to repeat the same thing, and is going to do whatever it is in the whims and caprices of his godfather. And that's exactly what you're going to be seeing in Rivers State. You won't find anything that has to do with governance or that is related to governance in Rivers State. Some of us are not anticipating it, because we know the antecedent of these men. We know how they operate. We know how they have carried on the states over time. But it's also sad that the president allowed such a thing to befall Rivers State, all because of his 2027 election. And some of us, this is very, very, very unacceptable for us, that you cannot put your personal ambition above the interest of a state like Rivers State. And it is sad that the president was beclouded, or has been beclouded, by his ambition for 2027 to get a re-election. So the hands of the governor was also hand-twisted to make sure that he accepted the draconian terms that was given to him by both the president and the FCT minister. And we said there is peace. What is peace without freedom? What is peace when you will be controlled by the same man that created the same problems, the issues that led us into this crisis has not been removed. They are still there within us, which is the issue of resource control. Handing over the entire resources of Rivers to control and to determine how it is being expended. It is really a sad situation, but sadly, that is what we have found, where we have found ourselves today.
So do you think this peace deal, just in some kind of way, do you think it can translate into any real unity, or maybe some level of improved governance in Rivers State?
Well, as for unity, of course, I can tell you as of today that a lot of the supporters of the governor are quite angry with the decision taken by the governor, because some of them feel that the governor has thrown them under the bus and he never negotiated for them, and their interests were not also protected when it comes to the negotiations. Now, that is beyond the interest of Rivers people. Now, we are talking about the supporters of the governor. This is how they feel. So definitely we'll see a united front between the minister and the governor. But the big question is, will this also bring unity in the hearts of, or peace in the hearts of the average Riversman or supporters of the governor? I can tell you for free that you can't find it, because one of the things that this reconciliation between the governor and the minister did not also envisage was the disagreement that happened at the local government levels. There are some local government chairmen, that some persons who became local government chairmen under this particular crisis before the Supreme Court dissolved the local governments again, that today you don't expect them to return back to their former leaders just the way it is. There's supposed to be some level of negotiation, but of course they can't get it, because with the arrangement the governor has done, what the governor did was to return everything back to the old status quo of the minister controlling the structure and determining everything without considering the new dynamic that has played in most of these local governments. So I can tell you for free that most of these persons are very disgruntled about what has happened, and they cannot actually join. So I don't see a lasting peace in the long run. I don't see a lasting peace. I see some persons falling out with the governor and going on to actually carry on with their own activities and their own affairs. All
right, many thanks to you, Chetamuwala, for having this conversation with us. We're going to a quick break right now. I'll return. There's more. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Across the world, climate change remains one of the biggest threats to livelihoods, agriculture, and national stability. In Nigeria, desertification is advancing, weather patterns are changing, and communities are facing harsher living conditions, particularly in the north and around oil-producing regions. One of the driving forces behind this crisis is methane, a greenhouse gas that's quietly accelerating climate change far faster than carbon dioxide. News Central's Segir Ibrahim brings details in this explainer.
I'm sure you heard about the flooding incident in Mokwa, Niger State, where unfortunately figures show that over 700 individuals are missing. You might also have heard about recent attacks and farmer herders clashes in Benue State. There's also the issue of heat waves up north and also sandstorms becoming a norm. But all of this, according to experts, can be traced to climate change and the major culprit, an increase in emissions of methane. What is methane gas? Let's explain it to you.
Methane is a powerful but invisible gas. Though less talked about than carbon dioxide, it traps 80 times more heat in the short term, and it's a major driver of extreme weather, heat waves, and flooding. In Nigeria, the energy sector, especially oil and gas, accounts for over a third of methane emissions, mostly from gas flaring and venting.
Methane emissions are very, very important for us to control and to understand when it comes to fighting climate change. It's silent, it's odorless, colorless, you can hardly detect it, but the damage it causes is quite intense.
Until recently, tracking these emissions was almost impossible. But in 2023, a new standard from the global EITI framework implemented by NATI in Nigeria finally forced oil companies to report their emissions. 15 companies responded, including major players like Chevron and Mobil, but more than 47 others failed to disclose any data, raising concerns about compliance and transparency.
In 2023, 80 updated the standards, and for the first time, we now have disaggregated GHG emissions at company level that we can now track and monitor to see how much progress we are making when it comes to methane emission reductions in Nigeria.
Some disclosures are promising. However, anomalies remain despite these corporations' net zero pledges.
We would like to see more compliance, and that's why we call on industry regulators to ensure that oil and gas companies in the sector begin to comply with making this data available to the public.
But how does this affect the everyday Nigerian? From extreme heat and crop failures to violent displacement, Methane-driven climate change is already hitting home.
We now have more flood. Because of the increased temperature, we now have increased rainfalls, coupled with our own local infrastructural challenges. We have more stronger winds, higher winds that are causing havoc, destroying homes, destroying houses. Heat strokes are very, very dangerous. In Africa, there were several heat strokes in 2023, which increased in 2024. We also have challenges in the agriculture. With increase in temperature, it affects agricultural output, which means that food security in Nigeria, which is a problem, might also be a bigger problem.
Even herder-farmer clashes are linked to methane-driven desertification.
There is desertification in northern Nigeria, and because of that, available land for grazing is reducing. So we now have farmer herders moving down southward. These now begin to manifest in clashes between genuine herders and farmers because of the contest for limited resources.
Beyond NATI's effort, Nigeria has frameworks like the Nigeria Gas Decarbonization Program, but without full enforcement, these policies remain words on paper. Satellite tracking and civil society watchdog may soon play a bigger role in exposing companies that underreport or dodge responsibility.
We can now compare that data with satellite imagery, satellite data, then we can now hold more people accountable and ensure that they comply with emission reduction standards.
So, while floods, heat waves, and food insecurity may seem like separate problems, they all share a root cause: rising emissions, and methane is a silent driver. The challenge now is for Nigeria to match its climate pledges with real policy enforcement, because when the air we can't see becomes the danger we can't control, every second counts. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
The World Health Organization, WHO, and United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, say vaccination remains the easiest and most fundamental means of preventing many communicable diseases across the globe. This was restated during the 2025 Maternal, Newborn and Child Health Week, a biannual campaign program organized by UNICEF, the National Primary Healthcare Agency, in collaboration with state agencies and partners, held in Jos, the Plateau State capital. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe tells us more.
UNICEF and other partners are here to raise awareness on the importance of vaccination against polio and the human papilloma virus for girls between the ages of 9 to 14 years.
It's basically to pull attention to the importance of immunizing our children against polio, immunizing our 9-year-old girls against human papilloma virus, and also boosting the supplementation of vitamin A and other antenatal drugs that are given to pregnant women. We try as much as possible to get all our campaigns that are happening to overlap with each other, and we converge and integrate so that we make use of resources, both human resources and financial resources, for the betterment of the children of Nigeria. And that's why we're integrating MNCH Week with the polio campaign and the HPV campaign.
Partners urge parents to support this move, considering that thousands of children are suffering from polio and other communicable diseases.
This commitment will be translated into a polio-free community in Jos North local government, and a local government that's also free of all vaccine-preventable diseases.
The exercise is going to take place today up to Monday, though we have also a mop-up that will take place Monday and Tuesday. The exercise is supposed to finish 4 days, but we are having 2 days extra for mop-up. This exercise has been taking place not only today. So no, I don't think we are going to have any rejection. Every woman is expected to bring her child out for this vaccine because it's very important, as it will boost their immunity and keep them strong and healthy. Different organizations that have checked it and have certified that they are all good for their body and is not harmful in any way.
Effective coordination and collaboration at the national, state, and local levels is one of the best responses to many communicable diseases, with stakeholders harping on prevention, which they say is not only better but cheaper than cure. in Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyoi.
Coming up, at least 7 dead in recent anti-government protests. We'll tell you more after the break. Join us again. A devastating road accident struck Sabasaba in Tanzania's Kilimanjaro region when a bus and a minibus collided after a tire puncture caused the bus driver to lose control. Both vehicles caught fire, resulting in the deaths of 38 people, including 2 women. A partial collapse of a traditional gold mine in northeastern Sudan has killed 11 miners and injured 7 others, the Sudanese Mineral Resources Company confirmed on Sunday. Several civic groups and rights organizations reported that at least 7 people died during recent protests in Lomé, Togo's capital, with many others wounded. The demonstrators were protesting against rising electricity prices, a government crackdown on decent and constitutional reforms that could extend President Faure Gnassingbé's rule indefinitely. Coming up next is sports.
In sports, Egypt has claimed the overall title at the 23rd African Fencing Championships in Lagos, capturing 11 gold medals out of the 12 events. The 5-day tournament concluded with Egypt's dominant performance across multiple disciplines, including victories in men's team foil and women's team sabre. Nigeria's women's APA team made history by securing their first-ever championship win, defeating Benin Republic 45-40 to finish 5th overall. The home team's breakthrough came after a quarter-final loss to Algeria. Team member Adebodunrin Thomas called it a morale booster that will help their confidence. Egypt's men's team foil squad cruised past Angola 45-23 in the final, while the women's sabre team beat Algeria 45-40. Over 120 fencers from 18 countries competed at the Lagos venue. Kenya finished 2nd overall with 1 gold medal, while Tunisia took 3rd place with multiple silver and bronze medals. Nigeria's Super Falcons defeated Ghana's Black Queens 3-1 in an international friendly played in Morocco. The Super Falcons dominated the match at the Lanoria Sports Complex in Casablanca. Nigeria took the lead in the 34th minute through Chiwendu Ihezuo, whose shot deflected off a Ghanaian defender for an own goal. Star striker Asisat Oshoala doubled the lead from the penalty spot just before halftime. Rasheedat Ajibade added a 3rd goal 6 minutes into the second half to put the game beyond Ghana's reach. Ghana managed to pull one back through Alice Kusi's penalty in the 88th minute. The Justin Madugu-led side will face Tunisia in their opening game of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations on Sunday, the 6th of July. Paris Saint-Germain crushed Inter Miami 4-0 to advance to the FIFA Club World Cup quarterfinals. The European champions dominated from the start against the MLS team in Atlanta. João Neves opened the scoring in the 6th minute, heading home from close range off a Vitinha free kick. The Portugal midfielder doubled the lead in the 39th minute, and PSG added 2 more goals before half-time. The French champions eased off in the second half, limiting chances for Inter Miami's Lionel Messi. Paris Saint-Germain will now face either Bayern Munich or Flamengo in Saturday's quarter-final matchup. Lando Norris fought off a challenge from McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri to win the Austrian Grand Prix. Norris's 3rd win of the year, leading home a McLaren 1-2, reduced his deficit in the championship to the Australian to 15 points, heading into the British Grand Prix next weekend. The McLarens dominated the race. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc took the final podium place 17 seconds behind, with teammate Lewis Hamilton 4th. The McLarens dominated the race. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc took the final podium place 17 seconds behind, with teammate Lewis Hamilton 4th, a further 9 seconds behind. Mercedes driver George Russell finished 5th, while Red Bull's Max Verstappen was taken out by the older Mercedes driver Kimi Antonelli on the first lap and is 61 points off the championship lead. And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko.
And that's all at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Security operatives rescued 13 bus passengers abducted in Benue State. Presidency replies, critics insist that President Tinubu is in St. Lucia for diplomatic engagement, not for vacation. We also told you that the tragic bus collision has claimed 38 lives in Sabah, Tanzania's Kilimanjaro region. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on your screen. Do well to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You're going to watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274. We're also available on Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Chiwete Onyema.